Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoilery gripe video for A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you have not read this book, go and check out my spoiler-free review, which is linked down below. So as I said in my review, I was so torn on this book because there were things that I loved and things that I hated, and I really want to talk about that in depth with all of you guys. So I have a whole page of notes. Let's get going. First off, let me just say that I was really excited when I first heard about this book. I hadn't even completed the whole Throne of Glass What's Out So Far books yet, but I already had added this to my TBR. I knew I wanted to read it. I heard Beauty and the Beast, and I knew I had to have it, and I was so interested to see what this new world was going to be like and all the Beauty and the Beast elements. So with that being said, I did really enjoy the fairy world and how it was explained and everything. I love Fey creatures. I love mystical creatures of any kind, so seeing all these different kinds that were so vastly different was really interesting for me. I also really liked how all the Fey do look different from different courts. We didn't really get to see a ton of that, but I think we will in future books, but I liked how they all looked very different, and I'm interested to see more of them in the future of this world. With that being said, as I said in my review, I did not like the way the world and backstory was built up through people telling Feyre how it was. I liked the scene where she saw the mural and kind of pieced things together there, but there wasn't enough of that. I would like to see a lot more of that type of figuring out a backstory. Having a character tell somebody little bits and pieces and filling them in is fine, but there was a ton of just monologues from other characters explaining things, Tamlin explaining everything with Lucian, what happened there, and his past also as well, and then Alice explaining everything about the curse and the queen and the king and everything. It was about 3 pages of just Alice talking and telling world-building backstory, and that was about 75% of the way into the book. So I felt overall the world-building elements were pretty weak. I think in the future books it'll be okay because we're building on all of that, but I just didn't like the way that all of that was built just through dialogue between characters. Now let me talk in depth about Feyre as a main character. Like I said in my review, I really, for the most part, did not enjoy her as a character, and I found her extremely inconsistent and, at times, stupid. And I don't say that lightly because I genuinely enjoy and will defend with my life the majority of female characters out there, and even if they make stupid decisions, usually they make them for a good reason or because they don't know or no one's told them or something that we as the readers know is dumb, but usually the characters don't know is dumb. Feyre makes decisions that she is told is dumb, that she herself knows is stupid and dangerous, and she just does it anyway over and over and over again. So first off, having her backstory be a hunter and kind of have a survival instinct didn't match up with the fact that she was constantly putting her life in danger. If you can't think of all the ways that she constantly was throwing her life in harm's way, let me remind you. As soon as she got to the manor, she was constantly trying to escape into a land that she kept saying would most likely kill her. She fell asleep on the way to the manor because obviously Tamlin kind of put her out, and she was not going to know the way back. It was at least 2 days. She didn't have a horse, she didn't have weapons, she didn't know how to defeat anything, and she was constantly told about all these magical creatures that would rip her throat out if she escaped into the woods, but she still kept thinking about doing it. Also very early on when the Puka, I think is what its name was, arrived, and she thought it was her dad, she wasn't using any of her brain to actually think about how that was probably not her dad. She said herself how her dad barely left the house, how he was crippled, he would never have made it all the way in there, and she was running after him in the middle of the night, again in a dangerous land that would most likely kill them. Even if she held out hope about her dad, and I understand her wanting to believe that her dad really loved her and everything else, but at the same time, just not smart for a person who's supposed to be very rational, very conniving, a hunter, survival character. She really wasn't using that ability. Then we have her going after the Surreal, whatever its name is, which she is told time and time again that is an awful creature that will rip her throat out, and yet she goes after it anyway. Again, not really out of bravery or anything. I never felt like these actions were from her being brave. They were just from her being naive. When she traps the Surreal and then listens to what it says to her, she also gets confronted by all those other beasts and almost dies. Then we have her going to Fire Night after she's been told by multiple people not to go. And granted, I don't believe in victim blaming or if she went there that it was her fault. I don't think that she should have gotten raped or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But she's told by everybody to not go there. There's going to be creatures from other areas that will kill her. She's not safe here. Just stay in her room, stay in the manor, whatever. But no, she goes and she wanders around. And then when she almost gets raped by 3 fairies and gets saved by someone, then she gets carted back, is told to stay, she makes an appearance again, she goes out in the hallway. None of that means that things that happened to her were for a good reason or that those things should have happened to her, but she keeps making stupid decisions for a character who's supposed to have a good survival instinct. Then we have her drinking the fairy wine at the summer solstice, and that wasn't too bad because obviously she was surrounded by friends, but again, we have Lucien telling her don't do that, and she does it anyway. There's a difference between being stubborn and having a death wish. And lastly, we have her leaving when the Suriel told her not to. The one thing that that creature told her was to stay by the High Lord, stay with Tamlin, everything will be fine, etc., etc. She doesn't tell that to anybody. She keeps that to herself, even though everybody knows that these creatures tell the truth and kind of tell prophecies or whatever. But she keeps that to herself, doesn't tell anyone, doesn't do anything with information, and literally does the one thing that a creature told her to do, a creature that she put her life on the line to try to get. None of this makes any sense for a character who's supposed to be smart. There were moments that I did really enjoy Feyre as a character, and that is what is so irritating because there are some great moments with her. I loved the scene where she is sitting next to the fairy and is holding his hand and everything. She has a lot of sympathy for him. She's a very strong character in that moment. She says she doesn't want to have somebody die alone or anything like that. But again, it's inconsistent with her character who still pretty much hates Faye in that moment. Also, when she slaps Tamlin after he bites her, I think that's a very good moment. She definitely makes sure that she puts her foot down and isn't being controlled or anything like that, which I really appreciated. And a lot of the scenes in the last little chunk of the book, the last 20% when she was under the mountain, most of the scenes with her under the mountain, I really enjoyed. I thought she was being a smart character. She was making decisions that some people might say were stupid or risky, but she was making them for a good reason. I understood why she was doing it, and she was actually being brave in those moments. But the inconsistencies as far as behavior don't just stop with her because they also extend to Tamlin. So Tamlin right off the bat I wasn't really keen on. I don't like the kind of hot and cold, and I don't really think his motivations made sense. Obviously with the curse being revealed, we got to see why he was being nice to her at the beginning, all these things, but for the first 70% of the book, you don't know any of that, so he just feels inconsistent. You don't know why he's being nice. What are his motives, and why is he doing this, and why did he bring her back instead of kill her? It just doesn't make sense, and explaining it away 70% of the way into the book doesn't make up for the fact that for that whole 70% we're left wondering, why is he doing this, and this doesn't make sense, and this is so inconsistent, and what? Also, I really didn't enjoy the Fire Night scene, although that scene in the hallway was the time that I actually found their characters most interesting in those moments, because he was a little bit darker and different, and they had a more bantery type relationship and a little more push and pull there. That I find very interesting in relationships, typically speaking, but I just didn't enjoy how he bites her, very possessive. She does smack him, but the next day, everything is forgotten. That's never brought up again. I don't like how we have he's generally nice main character, and then he's basically drunk, and he gets to assault her, but it's fine the next day because he's generally speaking a nice guy. Yes, I enjoy some very bad characters who, again, we'll talk about later because there's one coming up that I'm going to talk about, but I enjoy those characters when they flat out say that they're bad. They are bad characters, and I don't excuse their behavior necessarily, but I understand their behavior, and I understand that complexity, and I like that, and there's room for redemption there, and it's just more believable. But with this, we had him being a generally nice character who does some kind of weird, possessive, creepy things, and I just really didn't enjoy that. But overall, I was just kind of meh on their romance anyway. I found the sex scene with them kind of awkward, not gonna lie. I'm okay with sex in books. I've read adult urban paranormal books which are full of sex, and I'm totally fine with it, but I just found the way that their relationship was done, it was just a little too much for me. It wasn't really insta-love. Again, this takes place over time, so it wasn't really that. They just didn't have that fire for me, and I just didn't really get that. They're attracted to each other because he's hot. Speaking of that, I'm going to backtrack for a second and point out that one of my pet peeves happened in this book, and that Feyre made a point to be looking in the mirror and saying how plain and ugly she was, and how she looked like different pieces of her family with her pretty up-tilted eyes and her straight nose that scrunches when she laughs and her high cheekbones with her, sunken cheeks, which is the definition of Western beauty pretty much. And I hate when any character does that and tries to play themselves off as plain and relatable, I guess. I don't know why authors really need to do this, but when in reality she's pretty much probably stunning. As far as the side characters, I was very disappointed that a lot of the side characters weren't fleshed out at all. Alice is just kind of a blank slate. A lot of these servants around her are a blank slate. And one of the good things about Beauty and the Beast, especially the movie, which is what I'm thinking of right now, is that you have all these servants and stuff which you really grow to love and enjoy all the personalities, even the most minor of characters. And with this, there was only a few side characters that you really grew to love. As far as her sister Nesta, I think that she is one that could have been developed a little bit more. I do find her very interesting, and I like how she wasn't affected by the glamour and everything everything, but at the same time, again, I found her inconsistent because she hates Faye with a bloody passion, but as soon as Feyre tells her her story of her High Lord, she starts calling Tamlin Feyre's High Lord, and it kind of feels like it's romantic and that she'll let her go back and blah blah blah. This character literally hates Faye, and all of a sudden is fine with them in a page. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I did enjoy that little bit of sister dynamic that we got with those two. I would have loved to see more, and I hope we see more in the future, but again, I just felt like that character development was a little bit shaky. Then we have Lucien, who I really enjoyed. I don't have much to say about him because pretty much everybody can probably agree that he is a great character. I liked his backstory. I liked his witty banter with her. I liked that he's sassy and snarky. It's my favorite kind of character. He's also very loyal. Any of the scenes with him, I felt like he really stole the show, and he was a great character. I really felt like the plot started to take off with the last 20% of the book. Once she goes under the mountain, that's where everything really starts to take off. I was really engaged with that. I liked the pacing of the majority of the story. I like slower reads. I'm okay with slower reads that are having some character development and stuff in there, although like I said, this character development is a little bit spotty. But I found the last part of it, that last 20%, to be particularly engaging. I liked all the challenges. I like that we got to see all the challenges. I like that Feyre really came into her own during those challenges and used a lot of her skills to kind of figure everything out within those challenges. I like that they also took a very serious toll on her. I'm interested to see what kind of things pop up from those later. The one thing that annoyed me with the challenges is I felt like the riddle was super easy. I guessed as soon as I read that riddle that it was love. And I'm really not that good with riddles, and I understand that she, you know, can't read and that maybe they are trying to say that she's kind of not as intelligent, but honestly, that was one of the easiest riddles ever, and having a villain that has that kind of out with a riddle is just ridiculous. I do not understand how that made any kind of sense. That kind of villain who is that evil and wants her to die anyway, any way possible, is not going to give an out like that with a fairly simple riddle. But with her going under the mountain, that was also our major appearance and introduction to the character of Rhysand, or Rhys, however we pronounce it. It will come to no surprise to any of you that I absolutely adored him and found him probably the most interesting character in the entire story. I found him intriguing as soon as we saw him way back in Fire Night, and I found him intriguing time and time again, especially once we got under the mountain and we got to see that he is not exactly what everyone thought that he was. He bets for her in her first challenge. He doesn't tell the queen her name right away. He's hiding all of these kinds of things. He helps the summer court when that whole thing happens. He uses that tattoo of hers to help her with the second challenge. He covers for her and Tamlin after they make out in like a broom closet, basically. I really found him a very complex character. He's morally gray, he's bad, I get that, but we're told he's bad from the very beginning, which is something that I can personally kind of forgive when he does these bad things because he's kind of on a road to redemption potentially, so I'm kind of okay with it more so than a character who we are told is good and a good person and then later does bad things. I enjoyed all of him and Feyre's interactions. I found them to both be more complex and interesting characters when they were interacting and everything that he was doing. No, I don't give him a pass for his bad behavior. He did some shitty things still, but ultimately I think that he's a very interesting character. I'm interested to see where that goes. I know a lot of people say that he basically drugged her with a fairy wine, but it does point out that he put the pant on her so she knows that he never touched her besides her waist and her arms. He never sleeps with her or anything. He kissed her unwillingly to cover up for her and Tamlin, because obviously if the queen would have walked in on that or seen that, they would have been dead pretty much instantly. So ultimately I can forgive some of these things that some people think are a little more on the shaky side because he did them in a very dangerous situation where I don't think that he would do them normally, but we will see what happens in future books and everything like that. I just found him a very interesting character, how slowly but surely all of his different kind of motives are revealed a little bit, and of course I love that she has to spend time with him in the next book, and that it's basically a Hades and Persephone retelling. I posted on Twitter when that whole thing was kind of revealed, that whole bargain was happening, and I was like, this has to be a Hades and Persephone retelling, and everyone basically told me, yes, Sarah J. Maas has hinted that that's what it is. Her Pinterest board says so, and I have a weakness for Hades and Persephone retellings, as you guys know. So regardless of how I felt about this book, I was going to read the next one anyway at that point. I really enjoy their interactions, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen now, especially with her now being a High Fae. I'm really glad that happened now, and I think her being a High Fae might change a lot of the ways that I feel about her, because she was such a kind of headstrong, but in a bad way, and kind of naive character that was constantly running into danger for the majority of the book. But now, if she runs into danger, I feel like she can handle herself, and it's okay. She's not kind of going against the survival instinct as a High Fae running into danger, because she can probably take care of herself. I also really like that we didn't wait until later on in the series to have that happen, because it would have felt a little bit too Twilighty for me. Obviously, we know that for her to end up with either of these guys or some other guy in the Fae world or whatever, she had to be Fae. So I'm glad that that happened early on, so that that kind of plot point just got eliminated. We don't have to worry about that in the future. Also, there has obviously been some speculation about what happened between her and Rhys right before he left, and he kind of staggered and looked at her all kind of fearful when he was leaving, and somebody said that it might be the mating bond, which would be very important to me, obviously. So I'm very interested to see what happens in this next book. Like I said, I think a lot of things that I had a problem with can be remedied in the next book. We already had the world building kind of established, so hopefully we don't have many more monologues or anything. We have the characters kind of established, and we have Feyre, who really annoyed me as a human person constantly running into danger, as now a pretty much immortal high fae. So I think a lot of these things can be kind of eliminated, and hopefully I'll enjoy this second installment a lot more. So myself, Sarah Jane from the Book Life, and Kristen from Cafe9X run a read-along group, and we actually read this book for July. So our live show is listed down below if you want to go and check that out and get more of our thoughts and have people ask questions and stuff like that. We did that earlier, so you can go and check that out and kind of get more of our in-depth thoughts on it. Maybe anything I left out here might be mentioned there, stuff like that. Also, comment down below, let me know what you thought of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know it's very well loved, I just didn't enjoy this first installment. I usually have a problem with first books, but again, I think a lot of things were just not very well done in this book, and I'm hoping they will improve in the next book, because like I said, I have to read a Hades and Persephone retelling, regardless of what it is. They're my weakness, I can't help it. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!